You know that special kind of betrayal where your husband hands you a cardboard box and tells you his mistress will be running your life's work by Monday? Yeah, that was my Thursday afternoon. Standing in the corner office, I'd decorated myself, Seattle skyline sparkling behind me like some cruel irony. Silas Mitchell, my husband of 15 years, actually had the audacity to look bored while ending my entire career. Not fired, not laid off, just erased. Like I was some outdated software he was uninstalling to make room for the newer, shinier model. 48 hours, Fallon, he said, scrolling through his phone while I stood there holding a Target box he'd grabbed from the supply closet. Couldn't even spring for proper moving boxes. Blakely starts Monday, and it'll be easier if you're not around during the transition. Blakely, 28 years old, finance influencer with 200,000 Instagram followers who thought asset allocation meant choosing which designer bag matched her outfit. The woman who posted investment tips that made actual economists weep into their morning coffee. I'm Fallon Caldwell. Well, Fallon Mitchell on paper, but we'll get to that. 42 years old, and for the past 15 years, I'd been the invisible architect behind Mitchell Capital Management. While Silas played golf with potential clients and practiced his visionary entrepreneur speech in the mirror, I built the algorithms that managed $200 million in assets. I created the risk assessment models. I personally courted the investors who actually mattered. But sure, hand the keys to Instagram Barbie. What could possibly go wrong? Transition? I repeated, my voice ice-cold calm. The kind of calm that should have warned him. You mean the transition where someone with zero financial credentials takes over a registered investment advisory firm? Silas finally looked up from his phone, and I saw it, that flicker of irritation when his trophy wife dared to question him. Blakely's been shadowing operations for 3 months. She's ready. Shadowing operations. The woman had attended exactly 4 meetings, spent most of them taking selfies in the conference room, and once asked me if fiduciary duty was a type of yoga. She thinks EBITDA is a Swedish furniture store, Silas. He smiled. That condescending smile I'd watched evolve from charming to patronizing over 15 years of marriage. You always underestimate people, Fallon. It's why you're stuck in the back office while I'm closing deals. Stuck in the back office. Right. The back office where I'd coded every system we used, where I'd salvaged his catastrophic investment decisions at least a dozen times, where I'd worked 80-hour weeks building a company he could slap his name on. The affair I'd known about for 6 months. I'm not an idiot. When your husband suddenly develops an interest in morning workout sessions and starts using words like synergy in casual conversation, you know some 20-something with a motivational Instagram account has entered the picture. I'd found the texts, the hotel receipts, the whole predictable midlife crisis starter pack. But this? Kicking me out of my own company? That was new. I built the client relationships, I said quietly. I designed the portfolio strategies. I created the automated systems that actually generate our returns. And you'll be compensated fairly in the divorce, Silas said, already turning back to his phone. My lawyer says, your lawyer? Ice flooded my veins. You've already filed? Blakely thinks it's important we start fresh without... He waved his hand vaguely in my direction. Complications. Complications. 15 years of marriage, reduced to a complication. I'd put him through his MBA. I'd supported him when he wanted to quit his cushy job at Goldman to start this firm. I'd worked 100-hour weeks while he found himself on a 3-month trip to Southeast Asia. And now I was a complication. The firm's in my name, he continued, like he was discussing weekend brunch plans. The house, too. You signed the prenup. Don't look at me like that, you know you did. So really, this is all very straightforward. Take the weekend to pack your personal items from the office. Security's been instructed to revoke your access Monday morning. Security. He'd already talked to security. I looked at him, really looked at him, and wondered when exactly I'd married a stranger. Silas had gained 30 pounds since our wedding, lost most of his hair, and developed the personality of unflavored oatmeal. But somehow, he'd convinced himself he was the prize. What about the investors? I asked. They're going to have questions when the senior portfolio manager suddenly disappears. We'll send a memo. Career change, pursuing new opportunities, very amicable. He checked his Rolex, the one I'd bought him for his 40th birthday. Look, I have a meeting with the Westfield Group in 20 minutes. You can schedule time with my assistant if you need to discuss logistics. His assistant. I used to be his partner. I should have screamed. Should have thrown something. Should have at least let him see how much he was destroying me. Instead, I smiled. Of course, I said sweetly. I wouldn't want to keep the Westfield Group waiting. Silas looked suspicious. He wasn't completely stupid, just mostly. But his phone buzzed, and whatever tiny survival instinct he possessed got overridden by his addiction to looking important. Great. Security will help you carry boxes to your car. He was already heading for the door. Oh, and Fallon? I'd appreciate it if you didn't make this difficult, for both our sakes. The door clicked shut behind him. I stood there in my office, the office with the ergonomic chair I'd special ordered, the desktop with 3 monitors running my proprietary trading algorithms, the filing cabinets full of 15 years of painstakingly documented everything, and started laughing. Not the hysterical laughter of a breakdown, the cold, calculating laughter of someone who just realized they're the only player in the room who actually knows the rules. See, Silas thought canceling my building access meant canceling me. His first mistake. Because here's what my darling husband forgot in his rush to upgrade to the newer model. I didn't just work at this company. I was this company. Every system, every algorithm, every important relationship, I'd built it, coded it, or cultivated it personally. The automated processes he thought would keep running smoothly, I'd designed them with more backdoors than a paranoid dictator's palace. And those investor relationships he thought belonged to the firm? Well, let's just say people invest in people, not company names. I pulled out my phone and started making a list, not a revenge list. That would be tacky. More like a comprehensive damage assessment of what happens when you remove the foundation from a house. Then I started packing my box. Slowly, methodically, taking only what was legally, unquestionably mine. Because when you're about to burn down everything someone holds dear, it's important not to give them any ammunition to paint you as the villain. Monday was going to be very interesting. Friday morning, I arrived at the office at 6 a.m., my usual time, back when I cared about this place. The Seattle rain hammered against the windows of our downtown building, and I couldn't help thinking how poetic it was. Pathetic fallacy, my high school English teacher would have called it. I called it Seattle being Seattle. Silas wouldn't roll in until 10 after his morning workout with Blakely, which gave me 4 hours of uninterrupted access to everything that mattered. I started with the Westfield Group. Richard Westfield and I went back 12 years. I'd personally managed his family trust through the 2008 crisis, turning what should have been a bloodbath into a modest gain. He sent me a bottle of Dom Perignon every Christmas. He'd never actually met Silas beyond handshakes at company parties. Fallon! His voice boomed through my speakerphone. Tell me you're calling with good news about the Mercer acquisition. Actually, Richard, I'm calling to give you a heads up. I'm leaving Mitchell Capital. Silence. Then, leaving? Why? Did someone poach you? Something like that. I kept my voice professional, neutral. I wanted you to hear it from me first. The firm will be under new management starting Monday. New management? What new management? You are the management. The owner's perspective differs, I said dryly, but I wanted to make sure you knew that your account will be handled by, well, someone new. Who? Her name's Blakely. She's been shadowing operations. Another pause. Blakely? That Instagram girl who asked me if my portfolio was giving diversification energy at the Christmas party? I smiled into the phone. That's the one. Absolutely not. Richard's voice went ice cold. Fallon, whatever they're paying you, I'll match it. Start your own firm. I'll be your first client. I appreciate that, Richard. Let me get back to you next week. I hung up and checked him off my mental list. 1 down, 47 to go. By 9 a.m., I'd made 18 calls. Not pitching, not complaining. Just courtesy notifications that I was pursuing new opportunities. Professional. Gracious. Absolutely devastating. The responses ranged from shocked to furious, but the theme was consistent. Without me, they were out. I was downloading files to an encrypted drive, all my personal work, nothing proprietary, I'm not an idiot, when Blakely walked in. She wore a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than my first car, her honey blonde hair in perfect beach waves. She looked like she'd stepped out of a Revolve ad, which, knowing her Instagram, she probably had. "Oh!" She stopped in the doorway, hand flying to her chest. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Just packing up," I said pleasantly. "Congratulations on the promotion." Blakely's expression flickered, something almost like guilt, before settling back into her practiced influencer smile. "Thanks. It's been such an amazing opportunity. Silas has been such a great mentor." "Mentor. Is that what we're calling it now?" "I'm sure you'll do great," I said, disconnecting my external drive. "The systems are pretty intuitive once you get the hang of them." "Actually," she stepped into the office, closing the door behind her. "Oh, this was going to be good. I was hoping maybe you could, leave some notes about the key accounts. Silas said you were super detail-oriented." "Super detail-oriented. The way you'd describe someone's grandmother's scrapbooking hobby. Not 15 years of financial expertise." "Of course," I said. "I've prepared a transition document. It's on the shared drive." Her face brightened. "Oh my gosh, thank you, that's so sweet. I was worried you'd be mad or whatever." "Mad or whatever. My entire life was imploding, but sure, let's keep it casual." "Why would I be mad?" I tilted my head, genuinely curious how she'd rationalize this situation. Blakely shifted uncomfortably. "Well, because of... Silas said you guys were already having problems, that you'd grown apart. Grown apart. The classic cheater's narrative. We didn't betray you, we just evolved in different directions." "Did he mention that I built this company?" I asked, my voice still sweet as artificial sweetener. "That every algorithm, every client relationship, every system that actually generates returns, I created that?" "He said you were really good at the technical stuff," Blakely offered, "but that the company needed, fresh energy. Someone who could connect with younger investors. Fresh energy. Translation: someone who'd look good in his Instagram photos." "Well, you'll definitely bring that," I said. "Quick question. Do you know what a fiduciary duty is?" Blakely laughed nervously. I've heard the term. It's a legal obligation. As a registered investment advisor, you're legally required to act in your client's best interests. If you give bad advice, they can sue. Personally." The color drained from her face. "Wait, personally? My actual money? Every penny." I smiled. "But I'm sure Silas explained all that during your mentorship." He absolutely had not explained that. I could see it in her eyes, the dawning realization that this wasn't just playing dress-up in a corner office. I should probably talk to Silas," she stammered. "Probably," I agreed. She fled. I went back to packing. At 11:30, Silas finally graced us with his presence. I was in the break room, boxing up my collection of fancy teas, when he stormed in. His face was red, his hair disheveled, the look of a man who'd spent the morning on damage control calls. "What did you say to Richard Westfield?" he demanded. "Good morning to you too, dear." I carefully wrapped my favorite mug, the one that said, "I'm not bossy, I'm the boss." I told Richard I was leaving. Seemed like the courteous thing to do. "He's threatening to pull his entire account." "Is he?" I arranged the mug in the box with theatrical care. "That's unfortunate." "Fallon, stop playing games. Did you tell our clients to leave?" "I told them I was leaving," I corrected. "What they choose to do with that information is entirely up to them." Silas grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to hurt, but enough to stop me packing. "You signed a non-compete agreement." I looked pointedly at his hand until he released me. "No, actually I didn't. You drafted one 3 years ago, remember? But you never got around to having me sign it because you were too busy with that cryptocurrency scheme that almost bankrupted us." His jaw clenched. I'd salvaged that disaster, spent 6 months unwinding his idiotic investments in digital tokens that turned out to be elaborate Ponzi schemes. He'd never thanked me. "You're sabotaging me," he hissed. I'm existing, I replied. If your business model can't survive without me, that sounds like a structural problem, not sabotage. I gave you everything. His voice rose. This office, this career, this life. You gave me? The laugh that escaped me was sharp enough to cut glass. Silas, I built this company while you were finding yourself in Thailand. I created the systems. I courted the clients. I saved your backside so many times I should have gotten frequent flyer miles. That's not how I remember it. That's because you've been Instagramming your fake reality for so long, you've forgotten what's actually real. A knock on the break room door interrupted us. Janet from compliance stood there, looking deeply uncomfortable. Mr. Mitchell? The SEC is online too. Something about irregularities in the Harriman account disclosures? The blood drained from Silas's face. The Harriman account, where he'd been fudging performance numbers to make himself look better at conferences, where he'd been taking credit for returns my algorithms generated while hiding the losses from his personal trading experiments. I'd documented everything, naturally. But I'd filed those documents with the SEC's whistleblower office yesterday afternoon. I should let you take that, I said sweetly. Sounds important. Silas looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the exact moment he realized he'd underestimated me. What did you do? He whispered. Me? Nothing. I just corrected some mathematical errors in our client reports. I picked up my box. Fiduciary duty, Silas. Someone has to maintain it. I walked past him, past Janet's shocked face, past the office I'd spent 15 years building. Behind me, I heard Silas's phone ring again, and again, and again. The weekend was going to be very interesting indeed. Saturday morning, I woke up in a hotel room overlooking Elliott Bay. Not because Silas had locked me out of the house. He wasn't quite that bold yet. But because I couldn't stand another night in that suburban prison we'd called home for 12 years. The place still smelled like his cologne and broken promises. I ordered room service, opened my laptop, and got to work. See, here's what Silas didn't understand about the company he thought he owned. Mitchell Capital Management wasn't just client accounts and investment portfolios. It was a complex web of systems, relationships, and legal structures that I'd woven together over 15 years. And I'd built in fail-safes. Not because I'd planned for this exact scenario, I'm not that cynical, but because I'm a detail-oriented person who doesn't trust anyone to maintain my work correctly. Call it professional paranoia. My phone buzzed. A text from my college roommate, Diana, who now ran a boutique law firm specializing in corporate divorces. Diana, saw your LinkedIn update. Coffee. I hadn't updated my LinkedIn, which meant people were already talking. Me. Hotel Monaco. 1 hour? Diana. The plot thickens. Bringing mimosas. Diana arrived with champagne, orange juice, and a legal pad. Okay, spill, she said, settling into the armchair across from me. The rumors are flying. You're leaving Mitchell Capital? Starting your own firm? Running away to Bali to find yourself? That last one's Silas's playbook, not mine. I accepted a mimosa. But yes, I'm leaving. Or rather, I was pushed out. Diana's eyes narrowed. Pushed out of the company you built? Please tell me you have documentation. Diana, I have documentation on his documentation. I've been keeping records since year 3. When I realized Silas thought fiduciary duty was optional if the client was annoying. Smart woman. She pulled out her legal pad. Talk to me about assets. I laid it out. The prenup I'd signed at 27 when I was stupid and in love. The company structure that put everything in Silas's name. The house we'd bought with my inheritance that somehow ended up solely in his name after a refinance. On paper, I was leaving with nothing. Diana listened, taking notes, her expression growing darker. This is bad, Fallon. The prenup is airtight. You waived spousal support, property rights, everything. What was your lawyer thinking? I didn't have a lawyer. Silas said it was just a formality, that it didn't mean anything because we'd never divorce. I laughed bitterly. I was 27 and stupid. You were trusting, Diana corrected. There's a difference. She tapped her pen against the pad. But here's the interesting part. You said you built the company's systems and client relationships? Every single one. And you have proof of that? Emails, documentation, intellectual property you created? 15 years worth. Diana smiled. The same smile she'd worn in college when she was about to destroy someone in debate club. Then we don't need the prenup. We go after the company as a jointly created asset. You didn't just work there. You were a de facto partner. Any reasonable judge will see that. Silas will fight it. Let him. Diana pulled out her phone. I'm calling Marcus. He handles complex corporate litigation. This isn't just divorce law. This is business valuation, intellectual property, unjust enrichment. We're going to bury him in paperwork. My phone rang. Richard Westfield. Fallon, I've been thinking about our conversation, he said without preamble. Start your own RIA. I'll commit $20 million immediately. I've already talked to the Pattersons, the Kowalskis, and the Birmingham Trust. They're all in. I grabbed a pen, scribbling notes. Richard, I appreciate the vote of confidence, but starting a registered investment advisory firm takes months. There's licensing, compliance infrastructure, audits. Then join an existing firm as a partner. My son-in-law runs Crawford Financial downtown. They've been looking to expand their wealth management division. I'll make the introduction. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. Silas called me yesterday trying to smooth things over. Do you know what he said? Richard's voice dripped with disdain. He said you were having emotional difficulties and that Blakely was more stable for managing serious money. The mimosa in my hand suddenly looked very appealing to throw at something. Emotional difficulties, I repeated flatly. I told him if he ever implied my portfolio manager was unstable again, I'd sue him for defamation. Then I told him to expect my account transfer paperwork Monday morning. I loved Richard Westfield. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for 12 years of excellent returns. I'll send you Crawford's contact information. After he hung up, Diana raised her mimosa. And so it begins. What begins? Your empire. She clinked her glass against mine. Honey, you're not losing a company. You're gaining freedom to build something better. By Sunday evening, I had a plan. Not a revenge plan. That word implied emotion, chaos, impulsiveness. This was a strategic demolition. Step 1 was already complete, the SEC investigation. I'd filed a detailed whistleblower report documenting 3 years of misrepresented returns, undisclosed conflicts of interest, and Silas's habit of using client assets to cover his personal trading losses, all backed by emails, spreadsheets, and recorded phone calls from back when Washington was a one-party consent state for recordings. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it justified? Absolutely. Was it legal? Completely. Step 2. Client exodus. By Sunday night, I had commitments from 42 of Mitchell Capital's 63 clients to move their accounts once I had a new firm. That was $170 million in assets walking out the door. Step 3. The divorce. Diana had already filed papers, not the friendly, quiet divorce Silas wanted, but a contested dissolution with claims of fraud, unjust enrichment, and breach of fiduciary duty to our marital partnership. We were going after the company valuation, and we weren't playing nice. Step 4. Blakely. This one was delicate. I'm not a monster. The girl was 28, clearly in over her head, and probably had no idea she was dating a manipulative fraud. But she'd chosen to step into my life, my career, my office. So I'd left her something special. That transition document I'd mentioned? It was real. Meticulously detailed, professionally written, absolutely comprehensive. And completely useless without the proprietary software that actually ran the trading algorithms. Software that was licensed in my name through my personal LLC that I'd set up 6 years ago when I got tired of Silas taking credit for my work. The license expired Sunday at midnight. Come Monday morning, every automated trade, every rebalancing protocol, every risk assessment tool, dead in the water. Blakely would walk into that office and find a company that looked functional but was actually a very expensive paperweight. My phone buzzed with an email notification. From Marcus Reeves, attorney at law. Subject: emergency restraining order. Approved. I opened it. Diana's litigation partner had moved fast. We now had a temporary restraining order preventing Silas from disposing of any company assets, altering any records, or accessing certain accounts pending the divorce proceedings. Another email. This one from Andrew Crawford at Crawford Financial. From Andrew Crawford. Subject: Partnership Discussion. Ms. Caldwell, Richard Westfield speaks very highly of your work. We'd be honored to discuss a senior partnership position at Crawford Financial. Our compliance infrastructure is already established, and we can have you operational within 2 weeks. Would Tuesday at 9 a.m. work for an initial conversation? Best, Andrew Crawford. I sat back in my hotel room chair, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle glowed against the night sky, the same view I'd had from my old office. Silas thought he'd erased me. He'd actually just set me free. I pulled up my contacts and started a group text to my core team at Mitchell Capital, the analysts and associates who'd worked directly with me, who knew where the real work happened. Me. Coffee tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., Zeitgeist Coffee downtown. My treat. Want to discuss an opportunity? 3 dots appeared immediately. Then 4 responses. Jennifer. I'm in. Marcus. Been waiting for this text. Sanjay. What took you so long? Lisa. Silas is a nightmare. Let's do this. I smiled at my phone. Monday was going to be spectacular. But first, I had one more call to make. I dialed the number I'd been saving for last. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Fallon? It's almost midnight. Hi, Mom, I said. Remember that trust fund Grandma left me? The one I never touched because Silas said we didn't need it? The $2 million? My mother's voice sharpened with interest. What about it? I'm going to need it transferred to my personal account tomorrow morning. I'm starting a company. There was a pause. Then my mother, who'd never liked Silas, who'd warned me about the prenup, who'd bitten her tongue for 15 years, laughed. About damn time, sweetheart. I'll call the bank first thing. I hung up and looked at my reflection in the hotel window. 48 hours ago, I'd been invisible. Tomorrow, I was going to be unforgettable. Monday morning arrived like Christmas for the vindictive. I met my team at Zeitgeist Coffee at 8 a.m. sharp. Jennifer, Marcus, Sanjay, and Lisa sat around a corner table, looking nervous and excited in equal measure. So, Jennifer said, stirring her latte, we're assuming Silas doesn't know we're here. Silas doesn't know what day of the week it is without checking his phone, I replied. Here's the situation. I'm joining Crawford Financial as a senior partner. They're established, licensed, and ready to onboard new advisors immediately. I need a team. Sanjay leaned forward. What are we talking about? Salary? Equity? 20% above your current salary. Equity partnership track after 2 years. And actual recognition for the work you do. I slid folders across the table. These are offer letters. Read them, think about it, and let me know by end of day. Marcus opened his folder, scanned it, and laughed. I don't need until end of day. Where do I sign? Same, Lisa said. Fallon, I've been updating my resume since Blakely asked me if bear market meant we were investing in wildlife. We all paused. She didn't, Jennifer whispered. She absolutely did, Lisa confirmed. I checked my watch. 9:15. By now, Blakely should be discovering that none of the trading systems work. The license expiration? Sanjay grinned. Brilliant. I'm not brilliant. I'm just someone who reads contracts. I stood up. Meeting with Crawford at 10. You all have your offer letters. Mitchell Capital's infrastructure is going to collapse today. I'd suggest being mysteriously unreachable when Silas starts panicking. They all nodded, expressions gleeful. Revenge is a dish best served with a really good legal team and airtight documentation. By 10:30, my phone was exploding. I'd silenced Silas's calls, but I could see them piling up. 15 missed calls, 23 text messages, each one presumably more desperate than the last. I was sitting in Andrew Crawford's corner office signing partnership agreements when Diana texted me. Diana, Silas just called my office screaming about software sabotage. I told him to put it in writing. He hung up. Me. Shocking restraint on his part. Diana. Also, the SEC showed up at Mitchell Capital an hour ago. They're seizing records. I smiled at my phone. Andrew Crawford looked up from the contracts. Good news? The best news, I said. My former employer is having a challenging morning. Andrew was 62, silver-haired, with the kind of quiet competence that comes from 30 years of not being an idiot. His firm managed $400 million in assets with zero scandals, zero drama, and a reputation for actually caring about fiduciary duty. "Richard tells me you're bringing significant client relationships," Andrew said. "Approximately $170 million in committed assets, pending transfer approvals." I signed the final page. "They'll start moving accounts this week. And your former firm? We'll be lucky to survive the month." Andrew studied me for a moment. "I'm not going to ask what happened, but I will say this. I've been in this business long enough to recognize when someone's been underestimated. Silas Mitchell's been taking credit for your work for years, hasn't he? 15 years. Then I'm glad you're finally getting proper recognition." He extended his hand. "Welcome to Crawford Financial, partner." I shook his hand, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Valued. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Unknown. This is Blakely. Please call me. Everything is broken and Silas is yelling at everyone and the SEC is here and I don't know what to do." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Me. "The transition document I left explains everything. Page 47 covers system failures. Good luck." There was no page 47. The document ended at page 32, but she'd waste at least 20 minutes looking for it. By noon, the dominoes were falling beautifully. Richard Westfield called to confirm his account transfer paperwork was filed. Then the Pattersons called. Then the Birmingham Trust. Then clients I hadn't even directly contacted. Apparently, word was spreading through Seattle's investment community faster than gossip at a country club. Diana sent me a photo. Silas leaving his lawyer's office, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Diana. His attorney just told him the company's probably going to be valued as a marital asset. He threw a chair. Me. Property damage. How professional. Diana. Gets better. The restraining order means he can't sell anything or move money. He's trapped. At 2 p.m., I got a call from Janet in compliance. "Fallon, I know I shouldn't be calling you, but..." She lowered her voice. "It's chaos here. The SEC has frozen half our accounts pending investigation. Blakely locked herself in your old office and won't come out. Silas is on his 4th conference call with lawyers. And we just got notice that 40 clients are transferring out. 42, actually," I corrected. 2 more filed this morning. Jesus. Janet paused. "Are you hiring? Because I've been documenting compliance violations for 2 years and I'm pretty sure I'm about to get blamed for all of them." "Send me your resume," I said. "Crawford Financial has a compliance director position opening." "Already sent," Janet replied. "To your new email address, which I absolutely did not get from Richard Westfield." I laughed. "Welcome aboard, Janet." Wednesday afternoon, I met Silas for the only conversation we'd have. His lawyer had requested mediation before the divorce got uglier. We met at a neutral law office downtown, Diana on my left, Silas's attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, on his right. Silas looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled suit, the kind of exhausted that comes from watching your entire life implode in 72 hours. "Fallon," Patricia began, "my client is willing to offer a settlement. $2 million, the house, and a non-disparagement agreement." "No," I said simply. Silas leaned forward. "That's more than fair. The prenup says you get nothing." "The prenup says I get nothing in a standard divorce," Diana interjected. "This isn't standard. This is fraud, unjust enrichment, and misappropriation of intellectual property. We're going after the company valuation." "The company's worthless now!" Silas exploded. "You destroyed it! You stole my clients, sabotaged my systems, reported me to the SEC? I corrected inaccurate filings, notified clients of management changes, and allowed my software license to expire," I said calmly. "All perfectly legal." "You vindictive..." "Careful," Diana warned. "We're recording this mediation." Patricia put a hand on Silas's arm. "My client is understandably emotional." "Your client committed securities fraud," Diana said. "The SEC investigation will likely result in fines, possible jail time, and permanent industry ban. The company he thinks is his will be liquidated to pay penalties. We'll take 40% of whatever's left, plus the house, plus 2 years of spousal support at Fallon's previous salary level. That's ridiculous, Patricia protested. That's generous, Diana countered. We could go for 60%. We have 15 years of documentation proving Fallon built everything while Silas played golf and committed fraud. I watched Silas's face cycle through emotions: anger, denial, desperation, and finally, defeat. I loved you, he said quietly. We built this together. No, I replied. I built it. You took credit for it. There's a difference. I gave you opportunities. You gave me work while taking the recognition. I leaned forward. Every client presentation where you used my research without credit. Every conference where you presented my algorithms as yours. Every time you introduced me as the technical person while you played visionary. That wasn't partnership, Silas. That was exploitation. He slumped in his chair. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You'll accept our settlement terms. You'll sign over 40% of the company liquidation proceeds. You'll agree to 2 years of support payments. And you'll disappear from my life permanently. And if I don't, then we go to trial, air every piece of dirty laundry, and I destroy what's left of your reputation. I smiled. Your choice. Patricia whispered something to Silas. He nodded slowly. We'll accept the terms, Patricia said. Excellent, Diana replied. We'll have papers drawn up by Friday. As we stood to leave, Silas grabbed my arm. What about Blakely? I looked at his hand until he released me. What about her? She's 28 years old. She didn't know what she was getting into. Can you not destroy her? It was the first genuine thing he'd said. Actual concern for someone else. I never targeted Blakely, I said. I targeted you. If she got caught in the crossfire, that's on you for putting her there. I paused. But for what it's worth, I hope she learned something from this. Like maybe don't date married men who lie about everything. I walked out of that conference room and didn't look back. By Friday, the new normal was established. Crawford Financial officially announced my partnership. Articles appeared in the Seattle Business Journal about veteran portfolio manager Fallon Caldwell's move to boutique firm. 42 client accounts completed their transfers, bringing $170 million in assets. Mitchell Capital Management announced it was restructuring amid regulatory challenges. Translation: dying a slow public death. Blakely updated her Instagram bio. The CFO title was gone, replaced with life coach and wellness consultant. I didn't gloat. I didn't post victory selfies. I just worked. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something better while they watch. 6 months later, I sat in my new corner office at Crawford Financial, watching the Seattle rain paint abstract patterns on the windows. Funny how rain used to depress me. Now it just felt like Seattle being honest about itself. Messy, unpredictable, but somehow cleansing. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Former investment advisor Silas Mitchell settles SEC charges, agrees to industry ban. I didn't click the article. I already knew how it ended. Silas paid $400,000 in fines, accepted a permanent ban from securities trading, and sold what remained of Mitchell Capital Management to pay his legal fees. The company I'd built over 15 years liquidated for parts, like a car in a junkyard. My 40% of nothing was still nothing, but I'd stopped caring about that particular victory 3 months ago. The house sold last month. Silas moved to Portland, where apparently nobody Googles your name before hiring you as a business consultant. Blakely's Instagram showed her in Bali, posting sunset photos with captions about finding herself and releasing toxic energy. Good for her, honestly. We'd both escaped the same man. She just got out cheaper. My new life looked nothing like the old one, which was exactly the point. Crawford Financial wasn't flashy. No fancy downtown high-rise, no impressive lobby designed to intimidate clients. Just competent people doing good work without requiring ego validation every 15 minutes. My team, Jennifer, Marcus, Sanjay, Lisa, and Janet, had settled in beautifully. We managed $200 million in assets now, with another $50 million in commitments from new clients who'd heard about that woman who rebuilt her career in 6 months. Andrew Crawford treated me like an actual partner, not decorative office furniture that occasionally produced useful analysis. Wild concept. Last week, Richard Westfield sent me another bottle of Dom Perignon with a note. 12-month returns, 18%. You're welcome for discovering you. I laughed for 10 minutes straight. Diana stopped by my office most Fridays for post-work wine. She'd guided me through the ugliest divorce of my life with the precision of a surgeon and the sympathy of a best friend. You know what I love about your story? She said one evening, feet propped on my desk. You didn't just survive, you upgraded. Upgraded from what? A cheating husband and stolen career? Upgraded from being invisible. Diana raised her glass. You spent 15 years making someone else successful. Now you're making yourself successful. That's not revenge, Fallon. That's evolution. Maybe she was right. Or maybe revenge and evolution weren't mutually exclusive. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday in March. I didn't attend the hearing. Diana handled it. Silas signed everything, probably because fighting required money he no longer had. I got the spousal support payments, a settlement check from the company liquidation that barely covered my legal fees, and something more valuable than either, my name back. Fallon Caldwell. Not Mitchell. Never Mitchell again. I celebrated by updating every professional document, license, and social media profile. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? You have no idea. My mother called that evening. How does it feel? Like waking up from a 15-year nap, I said. Disorienting but necessary. Your grandmother would be proud, Mom said. She always said that money she left you was for building something of your own. Took you long enough to use it. Better late than never. About time, sweetheart, she agreed. I learned things about myself in those 6 months. Like how much energy I'd wasted trying to make someone else look good. How exhausting it is to be married to someone who sees you as supporting cast in their personal movie. How liberating it feels to work 70-hour weeks when the results benefit you directly. I also learned that I'm significantly more ruthless than I'd previously believed. The old Fallon would have felt guilty about destroying Silas's career. The new Fallon recognized that I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd simply stopped holding up a structure built on lies. He'd built a company on my work, taken credit for my success, and replaced me with an Instagram influencer. The collapse wasn't my fault. It was inevitable. I just happened to be holding the matches when the house of cards finally noticed it was made of paper. Last month, I ran into Blakely at Whole Foods. She was in the wellness section, examining adaptogenic mushroom powder, looking significantly less polished than her Instagram suggested. No makeup, yoga pants, the kind of tired that comes from actual self-reflection rather than sponsored content. Fallon, she said, genuinely surprised. Hi, Blakely. I kept my voice neutral. She shifted her shopping basket. I owe you an apology. I didn't understand what I was walking into. Silas told me you were already separated, that the company was his, that I was the problem? I supplied. She nodded miserably. I was stupid. You were 28, I corrected. There's a difference. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For all of it. I studied her for a moment. She looked genuinely remorseful, which was more than Silas had ever managed. Here's some free advice, I said. Next time someone tells you their wife is crazy, their ex is vindictive, or their business partner was incompetent, that's not information. That's a warning about them. Blakely smiled sadly. Already learning that lesson. Good. I grabbed my groceries. Take care of yourself, Blakely. You too, Fallon. I walked away feeling lighter. Not forgiveness exactly, but release. She wasn't my enemy. She'd just been collateral damage in someone else's selfishness. These days, I wake up at 5:30 by choice, not obligation. I go to work excited about what I'm building. I make decisions without running them past someone who'll take credit. I have business cards that say senior partner and actually mean it. Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about that Thursday afternoon when Silas handed me a cardboard box and 48 hours to disappear. Best thing that ever happened to me. Because here's what I learned. You can't cancel someone who never needed you to exist in the first place. Silas thought he was the company. Turned out, I was the company. And he was just the guy whose name was on the door. He canceled my access. I canceled his entire reality. And honestly, I'd do it again. After all, when someone hands you a box and tells you to pack up your life, sometimes the best response isn't begging them to reconsider. Sometimes it's packing up their life instead, carefully, legally, and with absolutely devastating precision. Turns out, the best revenge isn't just success. It's succeeding so loudly they can hear you from whatever hole they crawled into.